Hello, Isabel Losada. Welcome to the Great Big Book Club. So lovely to have you on.
Fantastic, Imogen. I'm thrilled to be here.
And congratulations on this brilliant new book called The Joyful Environmentalist, which is a paperback original. Out, ready for pre-order now and out in July the 14th.
Yes.
So I've followed your career, you've done lots of different things. You sort of specialise in this incredible sort of factual writing, but it's a quest factual. I mean, how would you describe it to somebody who hasn't read anything that you've written before?
Wikipedia is a mysterious thing. Information about you just appears that you haven't written. And someone described my work on there, I thought, rather cleverly, which is I examine serious issues, but in a fun and light and humorous way. So I've been reading books about the environment for 2 years, and they're all fantastically depressing. And so like all the other issues I've explored, I wanted to explore how we could be the best environmentalists that we can be, but also in a way that enhances and enriches our lives. Simple.
Which is why it's called The Joyful Environmentalist.
Yes. How to be joyful whilst saving the planet, and how to make choices that enrich our lives and help the planet, basically was the quest, and to be completely solutions based. So in this book, I don't do any exploration of the problem of climate change or pollution, or I don't even, so that one of the first lines is, so what I'm doing is this. I'm just assuming that the readers are intelligent and know that we've got a problem. So I just like to be 100% focused on solutions.
But it's such a massive subject, and so many. I mean, you've gone through. There are you deal with plastics. You deal with changing your bank account. You deal with. I mean, how are you changing your electricity? I mean, how did you approach the whole subject? How did you break it down into little bits and pieces, or were you just guided? Did you sort of?
Well, no, that's interesting actually, because all my other books, I've had quite a clear structure. And when I sat down with this one, as you say, the subject is so massive, it covers everything, that I ended up, instead of having a linear progression, thinking, well, I'll deal with this, and then I'll deal with this, then I'll deal with that. It just doesn't work like that with environmentalism, because it touches every single area of our lives. So I ended up, when I was trying to kind of plan the structure for the book, with just a spider diagram. And I thought, well, that's actually how we do it with our lives. We do a little bit about energy, then we do a little bit about nature, then we do a little bit about trying to be waste free. And then, so I just thought I'd do it like that. So I dip in and out of subjects all the way through the book. And it actually works quite well, I think, because we're all so intention rich and time poor that actually having things in shorter sections, I think, works well. I mean, I've been a reader all my life, but even as someone that's read forever, I'm spending way too much time on social media and not enough time reading. So I think generally many people like to have a book in short sections, and I'm assuming they've got 2 toddlers under 5 or a husband with a very busy career. So it just makes it more readable to have it in little bits. And then gradually what I'm hoping is that as you read through the book, it works, it builds like a jigsaw of pieces. So what you end up with is a congruent lifestyle. Like you say, you mentioned bank accounts. I've been banking with the same high street bank since I was 18 years old. I don't know why, some perverse loyalty to something. And I'd always felt a little bit unhappy with the fact that I thought they were probably, lending money to arms industries and lending money to the chemical industry and lending money to intensive factory farms and all kinds of things that I didn't agree with, and that I wouldn't want even a tiny amount of my money to be supporting, even symbolically. It would be like giving money to the tobacco industry. So I wrote to them and I said, can you let me know what your policies are regarding lending and investment? And they sent me back, after about 3 weeks, where they obviously flapped about it a lot and wondered how to reply, a sort of a page of deliberately obscure gobbledygook, which required me to understand the nature of ring fencing and all kinds of things. But they basically said, no, we don't you know, we don't have any guidelines. They lend money to whoever wants it, basically. So then I wrote to Triodos and said, can you tell me who you lend and invest money in? And they said, yes, the list is here on this page and you could look. And so I thought, well, right, well, that's an easy swap. So now, for the first time in my life, I have an ethical bank. So that's kind of what I mean by joyful environmentalism, that for the first time, I'm proud of I've never been proud of my bank before. And when you look at all the things they lend and give money and all the things they support, you go, yes, this is where I want to vote. So that's just banking. And similarly with everything, every aspect of our life is what I tried to look at.
So did you take every single aspect of your life and work out how to make it greener? I mean, what was because I mean, there's a wonderful chapter when you talk about changing your electricity, and there was you were being forced to buy a smart meter. You know, you've got to have a smart meter. And you said, well, I've got 65 Wi-Fi's coming through this house already. I've got low-level tinnitus from the amount of Wi-Fi that's going on in my house. And then they say, well, but you need to have a smart meter. I don't want to have a smart meter, but you've got to have a smart meter. It's like sort of some Kafka-esque experience going round and round in circles. I mean,
a lot of it was really Kafkaesque, because I went further than that. I had the government come to the house. Because, you know, if you rent or sell a house, I mean, obviously there's more about this in the book, but you have to have this energy proficiency certificate done. And this is a government thing. They come to your house and they look at your energy use in the house, and they rate your house according to your how much energy you're using. And so I thought, right, well, I'll do that. I'll see what the government have got to say. And they came to my house, and I've got this ancient gas boiler that I expected them to say, well, that's got to go because that's polluting the world. And on the contrary, they loved it. And it took me ages to work that out. I was getting higher marks because I've got this ancient gas boiler that's literally polluting the world, pumping out. And so the energy in our homes is a particularly complex but valuable area to look at. It took a lot to untangle that, and I eventually went to, because I was with a green energy provider already. I was with Good Energy, who are one of the best energy providers. I've been with them about 8 years now. So I went to interview Juliet Davenport, who's this amazing woman who runs this energy company. And I asked her all the questions that you would ask if you were able to ask questions of the person who's bringing all the gas and electricity and everything into your house. So that's a fascinating section of the book that I sort of unraveled.
You met some amazing people along the way, along this incredible journey of yours into the environmental world. I mean, tell me about Isabella Tree and her rewilding project. I mean, that sounds absolutely gorgeous.
Well, through the book and through the year that I was looking into this, I was looking very carefully for examples of joyful environmentalism, people that are doing things for the environment that are just astoundingly wonderful. And I discovered NEP, the NEP estate in West Sussex, which I'm sure a lot of your book club members will already have read Wilding. It's an extraordinary book about the rewilding of an area, quite a large area of Sussex. And I found this, and I knew I wanted to include it, but I found so few other examples of joyful environmentalism that I ended up saving it to the end, because visiting there was just a wonderful experience. And I did meet Isabella Tree, who is a lady, you know, who's very gracious and lovely, and indeed has said lots of lovely things about my book. I sent it to her, and she's given me a commendation for the book. So yes, I mean, if any of your members haven't visited NEP, I do recommend visiting there. So it's just an example of what happens with nature when you just let nature free and you stop. I mean, I think it must have been in the Victorian times, we got this idea that everything has to be cut back and controlled. And I mean, we've got a communal garden here, and I'm continually begging the gardener who does the communal garden, please, can we just leave some of the flowers on the lawn? And, you know, but it's all got to be tidy. So we've got to get rid of tidy and just let nature be freer.
And did you, in your epic journey through the environmental world, what were the sort of single most useful things that that you discovered?
Oh goodness. Useful in what sense? Useful for the individual or useful for the
Or useful
planet?
like for
Or
getting rid of plastics? I mean, if you were going to make a big difference, what would be the first thing you should actually do?
well, I prefer not to use should, but you know what I mean. Could, things that we could do. I've got a list right at the beginning of the book, and it says this is for beginners. And if you're already an experienced environmentalist, you can skip this bit. But it lists 32 ways that we can get rid of plastic from our home. I think one of the easy things to do is just to stop buying plastic altogether. Not just so people usually start with single-use plastic, so people don't buy plastic bottles. But even then, I've got a friend locally who she's a woman. She's in extreme poverty. You know, she's really on the breadline. But for something in her, she's decided that she has to have bottled water. So she buys 2 bottles of bottled water every day, and it costs her, I worked out, £820 a year. And I'm always teasing her, saying she's obviously very rich, because I drink tap water and I don't seem to have died. So anyway, you can start with single-use plastic, but then what becomes really interesting is to bear in mind that all plastic is made of oil, and we have to leave the oil in the ground. So one thing we can do is just to stop buying plastic completely. And what happens, again, because I'm looking at the joyfulness of it, is in a really subtle way, our homes start to be transformed into something that's more real. For example, to take an obvious example, I had, you know, those big plastic storage boxes that we all got from Muji that are kind of transparent to store your stuff in. And I had a load of those. And when I was in Devon in Totnes, and they have a man from Ghana there who sells these amazing multicolored wicker baskets, you know, with all these oranges and reds, absolutely beautiful. And I thought, somebody's made that, you know. And my local, so basically I bought one of these beautiful wicker baskets and took the plastic away, gave the plastic away to my local charity shop. The storage boxes, they were very grateful to me when I take plastic in there. I'm always taking plastic stuff in there. Similarly, I had a laundry basket. I gave that to the local dry cleaners, because my local charity shop, again, has all these beautiful wicker baskets that someone has made that they're giving away for a song. And so slowly but surely, I've been removing plastic and bringing in things that are more, they have more congruent, they have more authenticity somehow. These items that are made by someone.
You also, there's a brilliant chapter in your plastics chapter, which says 10 new plastic products sold to us on social media this year. And
Yes.
my favourite is a plastic pram for pushing a watermelon in
Yes.
chiller to keep your melon cool, £130.
Yes.
I mean, it's the inventive ways of pushing more plastic on us as well, which was really quite interesting in this.
Well, Matthew Parris, you'll have noticed, Matthew Parris wrote an article in The Guardian that said that someone in the oil industry, obviously there's huge numbers of them, they've spent £180 billion on getting people to invent products that we don't need, because they didn't exist until they invented them. And then they're pushed to us on social media. And once you read this, you'll start noticing them. They're continually coming through, another plastic product. And one of their most clever tricks is to pretend that these plastic products are in some way ecological. So you have eco eggs, don't you, to go in your washing machine, and they're called eco eggs. I mean, what on earth is eco about a plastic egg to put your soap powder? I mean, my grandmother just bought soap powder in a cardboard box, and it washes the clothes perfectly well. But we're sold eco eggs for this, and then you have another eco egg for your dryer. And one of the other ones on that list you'll notice is someone selling. I mean, it sounds like I'm making this up. Someone's selling a plastic egg to put your egg in. So you crack your egg into this plastic egg, and you put the egg in the boiling water, and then you boil it.
So it's a sort of shellless egg then when it
Yes.
comes out. It's like a hard
or something
egg.
Like that. I mean, they're incredible.
They really made a shell quite cleverly for us.
Exactly, exactly. But these plastic products, you just notice them when you're on social media. They're continually selling them to us. Another plastic product, and it's particularly clever, as I say, when they market them as eco. So people buy them because they think they're being ecological. Eco doormat was my favourite one. I think one of my other favourite ones. £92 for a doormat that they claim is in some way ecological, because it's just complete nonsense. Anyway.
No, well, I completely agree. And did you enjoy? There's a big chapter on Extinction Rebellion. Tell me about that experience.
Well, I was a little bit hesitant about Extinction Rebellion because I wasn't sure whether I agreed with what they were doing or not. I was very much in the don't know camp. I thought that they risked alienating public from the environmental cause by pissing everyone off, by blocking the roads and stuff. But I went along just to explore, and I thought, well, right, okay, so how can I be an active campaigner and be joyful? So I joined the samba band and banged drums for all the way through. And I tell the story in this book of the April Rebellion. You know, I'm sure your members will know there have been two major rebellions so far. There was the April one, and then there was the autumn one. And so I tell the story of that whole rebellion from the point of view of the samba band. And it was astounding. It was astounding. I mean, some people take the view that just to do what we can, even if we do every single thing we can and we become the best environmentalists that we can be, that there's a limited amount that we can do as individuals, and that if we really want to change things, we need to work as a cooperative. So I explored that too. I wanted to explore, and certainly that rebellion put the environment on the map in a way that it's never been on the map before. And I mean, thousands of people choosing to be arrested in the street because they're so passionate about protecting the environment. I mean, it was hugely moving and very, very just impressive. I was in awe of the people they called the arrestables, who were the people who decided right from the beginning that they were prepared to be arrested. Extraordinary bravery, people putting their arms in metal pipes that machines were going to come and cut the pipe, and you'd have a drill that would be this far from your arm. I mean, grandmothers, pregnant women, teenagers. I mean, it was an extraordinary experience, and did put climate on the map in a way that it wasn't on the map before.
Yes, and in a joyful way, actually.
Yes,
they had some very good jokes, you know,
it was very joyful. Yes, the whole thing was
the pink boat and all those debris and things. At the end of your journey, are you more hopeful for the planet than you were at the beginning of your journey? Do you think we are moving in the right direction?
Oh, goodness. That's a big question. I mean, the thing is, Imogen, in my work, I focus very much on what's called the locus of control. You know, what we have control over and what we don't have control over. And there's so much confusion and division in the world at the moment. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're concerned about the environment, whether you're concerned about a more equal society, whether you're concerned about racism. All these, they're such huge subjects. And I think sometimes if we think about the broader subjects, it's too easy to feel overwhelmed and despairing and think, oh, I'm just one person, I don't make a difference. So I tend to do the opposite to that. I tend very much to put my focus on everything that I can do. So to take a really simple example, people complain a lot about the amount of litter that gets dropped all the time. I've got one of those amazingly fun litter pickers with a thing like that on the end. And I go around, I cannot tell you the satisfaction of picking up a pair of plastic gloves from COVID-19 that some twit has dropped in the road and picking them up and dropping them in a bin. I mean, it's so satisfying. So I always tend to put my focus there rather than on things that I have no control over. Because I think, the more of us do that, but that doesn't mean that I don't keep on lobbying. I mean, someone had written just a couple of days ago, they were in despair because the local council was still spraying their sidewalks with chemicals, you know, and killing everything, killing all the insects, all the plants. That's what they do to make it tidy again. And they were saying that they were despairing because it's called, the name of it momentarily escapes me, but anyway, it's this really nasty chemical that councils use. They also spray it around graveyards and stuff. Roundup, that's what it's called. It's called Roundup, and it kills everything. Anyway, this person was complaining on Facebook, and I said, don't complain here. You know, write a letter to your local council complaining in 10 minutes. Write a letter to your local paper. Write to your local wildlife trust. Write to your local women's institute. Write to your local church. Write to your local RSPB. Write to your local Green group. Write to your local Extinction Rebellion group. Write to your local Tory party. You know, you can do that. So that's why I get involved with Extinction Rebellion in the book, because it's not that I'm not interested in the bigger picture. I am interested in the bigger picture, but I'm interested in it insofar as what impact we can make on it. And lots of drops. It's like I say at the beginning, I say, you know, don't despair because you're just a drop in the ocean. What is the ocean apart from millions of drops? And yes, it's work, but there are lots and lots of people waking up to it. And I think possibly one of the things that's gone a little bit wrong with the environmental movement is people do think of it as depressing and think, oh no, it just means I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't fly and I shouldn't have a car and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, and it's all what we can't do. And so it's yet another thing, people just resent it and feel guilty. So what I've tried to do here is introduce, you know, ways that we can be effective that are not depressing. Does that make sense?
Well, that does make sense. And you've done it very well. You're one of my favourite books of all time, which was one of yours, which was the Battersea Park Road to Enlightenment, which basically took on the sort of wellness and in industry, as it were. Yes. Which was brilliant and sold over 100,000 copies and was a massive bestseller. So what do you know what you think you might do with your next? Where's your gimlet eye going next? Do you have an idea yet?
At the moment, if some publisher were to approach me and say, we'd like to make a book deal to you. I mean, at the moment, I'm busy concentrating on this one because this one's not out yet. But actually, I would love just to do more joyful environmentalism at the moment. I mean, I've written on the Goodreads page where people are starting to review the book mercifully because some people have advanced copies. I've written, please, what joyful environmentalist ideas have I left out? Please tell me. For example, there's a man called Ron Finley in America who I've only discovered since I've finished the book, who in an urban environment, you know, really poor, underprivileged, mainly black area, is teaching people to grow food, because he says more people are killed by the drive-through than the drive-by. And he's just growing food. And I mean, that for me is such a wonderful example of joyful environmentalism, because it's taking that kind of joy to the place where it's most needed, and nutrition about education. He's not in the book because I only came across him since I finished the book, but there are other things. There are people, there's another thing I discovered that I love, people going around the streets with white chalk and labeling the plants that are growing by the side of the road. I just love that. You know, this is lesser spotted knapweed or whatever. So people realize that there's something value there growing. I mean, I love that. So I've always got my eye open for examples of things, and I love things with a touch of humor, anything with humor. You know, how can we save the environment and have fun? And, you know, because as you say, the Battersea Park Road to Enlightenment, it was and is, because it's still selling, I'm happy to say, an exploration of happiness. Because I mean, life is short. So we want to be, and the Dalai Lama himself says the purpose of life is happiness. So I think to be focused on happiness is a really important focus, and to be focused on happiness and saving the planet is what we now need to do. Whatever our walk of life is, we need to somehow incorporate environmentalism into that as much as we possibly can, and in a joyful way.
And do you think, one last question before I go, do you think the coronavirus has been had a positive environmental impact, bizarrely, after all that we've been through?
I think in some ways it has. I think in some ways it has, and in others it hasn't. One of the blessings of it is it's made people far more aware of nature. I mean, I live in London, and we have a plane going over here every 5 minutes. I'm not, and I'm not even near Heathrow, but you could barely hear the birds. And it's been such a blessing on the soul not to have planes going over and just be able to hear the bird song. And I think people have been forced to realize the consoling nature of nature itself. People growing plants, and people growing food for the first time, and people noticing the birds for the first time because they haven't been able to hear them before, and people suddenly having an interest in nature in a way that they haven't. So all those things have been fantastically positive. I think, and my hope as well is with shopping. I mean, a lot of people sort of thinking, now the shops are open, you saw the queues outside Primark, people rushing back to kind of get their fix of their shopping fix. But my hope is that people, having lived for 3 months without the shops being open, they will have discovered that they've got enough clothes already in their wardrobe. We don't need to shop and shop and shop. And it's a false fix. It doesn't. We've just got, for the first time here, my daughter and I have just grown the sunflowers from seed. I can't tell you the satisfaction of putting a little seed in the earth, and we've not got sunflowers now. It's completely different from going out and just buying a sunflower that's been grown somewhere else. We've actually watched it grow. So I hope that there's a greater awareness of our dependence on nature and our dependence and localness I think people have been forced to consider that more, caring for the people immediately in their neighbourhood.
Well, so congratulations on this. It's the most amazing book. And you even got a lovely quote from Sir Mark Rylance on the back, which she gave my spirit a lift and my feet somewhere to stand, which is so poetic.
I was so proud of that. I wanted to write back to him and say, I tell you what, Sir Mark, I can suggest all kinds of other places your feet might like to stand, like in my garden, in my kitchen, in my lounge. They could stand in all those places too. No, I've been a great fan of Sir Mark Rylance for many years. So he's also obviously a passionate environmentalist, which is why he was happy to see the book.
Well, listen, congratulations. It's fantastic. And it is funny and joyful and a properly good read.
Thank you, Imogen.
So it's not a chore, it's a delight. So thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.